I want to be in a cold open.
Incredible. Hello, everybody, and welcome back. It's been almost a month. A lot of things happened. I moved locations, I went on a trip, I got sick, and I started my new job. So, a lot of things going on these past couple of weeks, but I'm back and want to start off easy again, ease my way into it. So, today I would like to talk about fictionalizing music and poetry. Now, that sounds like a little bit of an odd thing to say. What do I mean by fictionalizing music and poetry? Well, a lot of times people consider music and poetry to be nonfiction. In fact, in a lot of bookstores or libraries, you will often find poetry in the nonfiction section, and when you are attempting to self-publish through, let's say, Barnes& and Noble, which is not something I've ever attempted to do. I've definitely attempted to do that. I haven't gone through with it, but maybe one day. If you try to publish poetry, self-publish it that way, poetry is automatically sorted into nonfiction, which I think is rather ridiculous because poetry isn't inherently nonfiction. Now, I'm not gonna sit here and read you my poetry or anything like that, but the poetry I have written, at least 50% of it is fictional. A lot of it is based on reality or fictionalized versions of my life. But for at least 50% of it, it is fictionalized. Or it's like weird metaphors that get so metaphorical that the reality becomes fiction. I think that it's silly to think that all poetry is inherently realistic and it has to be about people and it has to be based on their life and that it shows something about the person. And while poetry does show something about somebody, it doesn't necessarily show any more than if you read a short story by this person. Poetry is an art form, and to expect an art form to be entirely nonfiction is, I think, a little bit ridiculous. It's like expecting all artists to be portrait painters and to only paint realism or things that they're seeing or paint from reference. But you can paint a scene that you've never seen at all in your life, and the same is true for poetry. Now, why do I bring up poetry and why do I bring up all these examples? It's because I need you to stick with me when I say that applies to music. And it's so important to think about it this way, right? Because you need to start with a place where people understand. You say, stories can be fictional. And people are like, yeah, of course stories can be fictional. You go, okay, okay. So stories are fictional. Short stories can be fictional, of course. Poetry can be fictional. Well, art can be fictional, poetry can be fictional, right? Film can be fictional, it's not all documentary. And then you get to the point where you say music can be fictional. And this is something that a lot of people have a little bit of a hard time grasping for some reason. I think I need to point them to songs that are fictional or feel fictional, and it's like a story is being told to you. So let's start with musicals, right? Musicals are fictional, right? Or at least most of them are, and if they're based off of a true story, it kind of is fictionalizing the truth. If I am singing Dead Girl Walking from Heathers, that is fictional. I have not experienced these things. These are not things that I'm experiencing. If you're listening to a song like Yellow Submarine by the Beatles, you're not going to be like, this is truth. This is exactly how this happened. Or if you're listening to Hound Dog, but you're listening to Elvis's cover of it, you're not going to say, this here is true, this is actually what happened, right? Same thing as when you listen to a lot of Beach Boys songs and you realize that not all of them were surfers and they're just kind of singing about surfing for the vibes. Fiction. All this to say is that if you're looking at a pop star's discography, there's going to be a fictional song in there, right? You're not going to listen to One Direction and be like, ah, yes, this song was written about this girl that this one member dated, especially when you look at it and you're like, actually, this was written by someone who's not even in the group. I think this is something that people just need to reconstruct in their heads, especially with musicians that aren't in bands but are just solo artists. People are obsessed with believing that every single one of their songs is about their life and is like a strong inspiration about their life and are events that happened. Now, I'm not going to say that this is entirely untrue. There are things that obviously inspire music that happened in your real life. And there's other elements of things where it's like, okay, I'm fictionalizing an event or I'm drawing upon an emotion of something that happened to me. Who's to say the same isn't true for Taylor Swift or Olivia Rodrigo or Sabrina Carpenter or Harry Styles, right? Like, people don't take all of Hosier's songs literally necessarily, as far as I'm aware, right? I don't actually know. I haven't like encountered like major Hosier fans in like a fandom way, you know? Anyway, who's to say that there aren't songs out there that people are saying, no, this is about like this person in this musician's life, and this is the thing that happened, and this is how it happened, right? There is work out there that is fictional, and you don't need to be told it's fictional to think about it. I might not know very much about this, but I think it's important to give people grace about just believing that we live in a world where fiction exists and giving people the room to explore with that without having to like accusatorily stick your fingers in their business and say, ah, yes, this is what this means. And it's like, no, that's not what that means. That is actually just something that they were having fun with. I got very angry about this a while ago when I was on the internet, as you do, when people were saying, like, oh no, this thing and this thing and this thing. And it's like, no, what if actually you're all wrong? What if it's not about anyone? What if it's just like a thing that happened in this artist's head? Anyway, thank you for watching this slightly disconnected rant. Improv videos again soon. Got some things about Cymbeline lined up, and maybe I'll bring in my girlfriend. Thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful day.